Mr. Chair, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 5, printed in Part A of House Report number 116-111, offered by Mr. Rouda of California.
Pursuant to House Resolution 436, the gentleman from California, Mr. Rouda, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise today in support of my amendment to recognize the contributions of Vietnamese, Laotian, and Cambodian immigrants and to discourage attempts to repatriate them to those countries. In 2008, Vietnam and the United States reached a formal agreement that contains specific restrictions on the repatriation of certain individuals to Vietnam, including barring the repatriation of any Vietnamese national who arrived in the United States before our two nations established formal diplomatic relations in July 12, 1995. This limitation in the agreement, which has not been renegotiated since its signing, strengthens and protects our communities by keeping families together and empowering individuals who have lived in the United States for decades to continue to make positive change in communities across our country. Under President Trump's administration, however, we've seen an increase in deportations of Southeast Asian immigrants and a push to negotiate repatriation agreements across Southeast Asia, including using visa sanctions to unilaterally punish countries like Laos that do not currently have such an agreement with the United States. I am proud to represent a thriving Southeast Asian community, including thousands of men and women and children who came to the United States fleeing violence and genocide during and after the Vietnam War in search of a better life. I call upon the President Trump's administration to cease these attacks on Southeast Asian constituents and halt all efforts to renegotiate the 2008 agreement with Vietnam and negotiate a new repatriation agreement with Laos. I'd like to thank the organizations like the Southeast Asia Resource Action Center, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, and the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association for their work to support these individuals and their help in raising this issue before the House. I'd also like to thank my colleagues, especially Representatives Alan Lowenthal, Lou Correa, and Zoe Lofgren for their important work on behalf of these communities. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I reserve the balance of my time.